about serial communication in 8051, and this kind of data or this kind of communication is provided by one peripheral inside 8051, and that is UART. So we'll discuss how to use this UART and how to configure this UART, but before that we'll start with what is a communication and the classifications of the communication. Okay, so here communication is nothing but transfer of data between the two entities or two systems or 2 points or 2 machines. So that is called as communication, and it is classified into 2 types here. One is parallel and the other one is serial. In case of parallel, multiple bits are transferred at the same time through multiple channels, but when it comes to serial, a single bit is transferred at a time through a single channel. So that is why it is called as a serial communication. Okay, now let us see how a serial communication looks like and how parallel communication looks like. Here this is a serial communication where a sender and receiver is connected with one channel, where the sender always sends the data and here the receiver always receives the data, that is this through this particular channel. Okay, but when it comes to parallel communication, between the sender and the receiver you can see multiple channels. So these multiple channels will be carrying multiple data bits at the same time. As you have 8 channels here, so 8 data bits are transferred at the same time. Okay, so when you look at the advantages and drawbacks here, serial communication advantage is it is simpler, and the cost which is used for implementing this kind of communication is very less. But when it comes to drawbacks of serial communication, here the speed of transmission is very less. Okay, but in case of parallel communication, the advantage is speed of transmission is high, but the drawbacks are here, as this system looks very complex, therefore here the cost for implementing this kind of communication is very much high, and there is a chance of noise to degrade the message. Okay, now let us see the transmission types in serial communication, that is simplex, half duplex and full duplex. In case of simplex, the transmitter and receiver are connected with a single channel, and this channel is always unidirectional. Therefore the transmitter will always transmit the data and the receiver will always receive the data through this channel. So that is why it is called as unidirectional communication. And when it comes to half duplex, here at a time one machine can transmit the data and the other machine can receive the data. Here we have a bidirectional channel, but simultaneous transmission is not possible with this channel. Why? Because we have only one channel, but it is bidirectional. And when it comes to full duplex communication, here we have 2 independent channels, one is for transmission and the other is for receiving. So that is why it is called as bidirectional communication, and simultaneous communication is also possible with this full duplex communication. Now let us see the transmission modes in case of serial communication. There are 2 transmission modes, one is asynchronous and the other one is synchronous. So in case of asynchronous transmission, both the transmitter and the receivers are connected to different clock sources, but the clock value should be same. Why? Because synchronization is done only with those clocks. So here both the clocks for transmitter and receiver are independent. But when it comes to synchronous, transmitter and receiver are synchronized with a same clock. Why? Because in case of synchronous transmission, one device would be generating the clock and the other device would be receiving the same clock which is generated by the other device. The device which generates the clock is called as master, and the device which receives the clock is called as slave. So as we are giving only one clock signal, then both are synchronized with that clock signal. Now we'll see how asynchronous transmission goes on, how a data or a character is transmitted. In asynchronous transmission, character by character is transmitted, and every character would be going through one process that is called as framing, and the output of this process is called as a frame. Okay, now in this framing process, each and every character is added with some additional bits. They are start bit, stop bit, and there is one optional bit, that is parity bit. Okay, so here start bit indicates the receiver that it is the start of a character, and here stop bit indicates the receiver that it is a end of a character. So with the help of these bits, the receiver and transmitter gets synchronized. Okay. Now as you can see here, initially the transmitter, assuming that the transmitter on the right side and the receiver on the left side, it has transmitted the start bit, then it will transmit the 8-bit character, okay, and then an optional parity bit. So we, if it is required, then we can use, and then a stop bit. Okay, you can see with an example here where my character is A, which is represented with ASCII value. So ASCII representation requires totally 8 bits. So initially it sends the start bit and then 8-bit message or character and then the stop bit. Now here start, message as well as stop bit is nothing but a single frame. Okay. Now here technically the start bit is called as space signal and the stop bit is called as a mark signal. Now as just now I said, UART is the peripheral which is used inside the controller for providing asynchronous communication. Why? Because the name itself says that universal asynchronous receiver transmitter, where it can provide only asynchronous type of communication, and it will be acting as an interface between the processor and the serial port. Okay, and here this UART will be receiving the data in the form of bytes from the processor, and it converts that into serial data and transmits to the peripheral. And when it is receiving the data from the peripheral, it again receives in serial form and then converts it into byte form and then given to the processor. So that is why it is also called as serial to parallel or parallel to serial converter. Now here UART supports TTL voltage levels, which is of 0 to 5 volts, but whereas if we want to increase the length of the communication, then noise gets introduced into the channels. So in order to reduce the noise, we have to use a protocol for implementing the communication, and that protocol is called as RS-232. Now here RS-232 would be representing the data bits with higher voltage levels. So as the voltage levels are increased, therefore the length of transmission can also be increased. Okay, so we have to follow this particular protocol whenever we want to increase the length of the transmission or receiving. Okay, now here in case of a UART, it will represent a binary 0 with 0 volts, but in case of this protocol RS-232, it is represented by a voltage in between 3 to 25 volts, and binary 1 is represented by 5 volts in UART, and RS-232 is going to represent the same binary 1 with a voltage in between minus 3 volts to 25, that is minus 25 volts. So let us see what is that protocol RS-232. Here RS indicates recommended standards, and it was designed by EIA, Electronics Industries Association, and protocol basically means set of rules. So whenever we are using this protocol, we have to follow the rules which were designed or which were designed for this RS-232 protocol, and those rules are, it specifies two rules. One is voltage specifications and the other one is signal specifications. Okay, in case of voltage specifications, as you can see, it will represent logic 1 with minus 3 to minus 25 volts and logic 0 with plus 3 to plus 25 volts, and it will also specify some signals. We will see what are those, and these kind of signals are also called as negative logic signals, and TTL signals are called as positive logic signals. Why? Because here logic 1 is represented with negative voltages and logic 0 is represented with positive voltages, so that is why these are called as negative logic signals. Let us see what kind of signals that RS-232 is going to specify. So it will be specifying 9 signals here. Okay, data carrier detect, receive data, transmitted data, data terminal ready, signal ground, data set ready, request to send, clear to send, and ring indicator. Okay, now out of these 9 signals or 9 pins, in serial communication we would be using only, that is in asynchronous serial communication we would be using only 3 pins. Those are receive data RxD, transmit data TXD, and then signal ground. So these are the 3 signals which we use in case of asynchronous communication. And as I told you that UART will be supporting positive voltages, and but the processor would be understanding, or the communication through this RS-232 requires the voltages to be represented in negative form. So in order to convert the positive voltages to negative voltages, we use one IC, and that IC is called as MAX-232. Now this will convert the negative or positive voltages which are coming from the 8051 to negative form, and the negative voltages which are coming from the RS to the 2 to the positive form. So that is why we use max to the 2. Assuming that if I am connecting 8051 controller to the CPU of a computer, then the computer CPU supports plus or minus 12 volts, but whereas 8051 supports only 0 to 5 volts. So I cannot directly connect the voltages of this PC to this 8051. Why? Because it damages the IC. So in between the PC and 8051, I would be using max to the 2, which will convert the incoming voltages into, that is negative voltages into positive voltages and positive voltages into negative voltages. Now let us see the registers which we actually need to access for using this particular peripheral. Okay, so SBUF, which is called as serial buffer register, and the length of this register is 8 bits, and if I want to transmit any data, that data must be placed into this SBUF, and if I want to receive any data, then the received data must be stored inside this SBUF register. Okay, so if you want to transmit, then you have to place that character into the SBUF, and if you want to receive the data, so if any peripheral is sending the data, that would be received inside this, or that would be stored inside this SBUF, from where we have to read the data into a variable. Okay, so SBUF, serial buffer, and the length of this register is 8 bits. Okay, and we have to represent every character only by using ASCII values here. Now we have one more register, that is SCON, and it is bit addressable because I can address individual bit without affecting the other bits. Okay, see, SCON is nothing but serial control register. As you can see, there are totally 8 bits. It is an 8-bit register. Okay, let us see the importance of each and every bit. SM0 and SM1 are used for selecting a particular mode. We'll see that. And SM2 for multiprocessor communication. So if two processors, or if more than one processor is connected to the system bus, then the communication between the processors is done by programming this particular bit to logic 1. Then only the processor is going to recognize the request from the other processor. And REN, if you program this particular bit to logic 1, then the receiver gets enabled. If you are programming it to 0, then the receiver gets disabled, so that we cannot receive any data from the external world. TB8 and RB8, these two are the bits which are used for holding the 9th bit during the modes, that is mode 2 and mode 3. Okay, and TI is the bit which is used for representing when a character is transmitted. After transmitting a character, this particular bit will become 1, indicating that a character have been transmitted successfully. Okay, and this RI represents the status of the receiving data, that is after receiving a character and after placing that character into the SBUF, then this RI would become 1, indicating that one character is received and that is stored inside the SBUF. Now these are about the modes that we have: mode 0, mode 1, mode 2 and mode 3. Mode 0 is called as 8-bit shift register, and here baud rate is calculated with this formula, that is oscillator divided by 12. And mode 1 is called as 8-bit UART set by timer 1, and we'll see what is the formula. And mode 2, 9-bit UART, and mode 3 is also 9-bit UART, and these two modes, that is mode 2 and mode 3, are used in case of multiprocessor communication. So basically in most of the applications we would be using only mode 1. Okay, so let us see one more register, that is PCON, which is nothing but power control register. And here you can see it is an 8-bit register with the starting bit as SMOD, and then GF0, and then we have GF1. Now here SMOD is the bit which if that particular bit is programmed to 0, then we would be using only the normal baud rate. If that particular bit is programmed to 1, it means that we would be doubling the baud rate. Okay, and GF1 and GF0 are two general purpose user flags. And power down. Now whenever this particular bit is 1, then the processor enters into power down. Now what happens in power down mode? Clock is gated off to all the sections, including the peripherals, and supply voltage would be reduced to 2 volts only just to keep the data present in the RAM. Okay, so that is what happens in power down mode, which is similar to standby mode in the PCs. Okay, what happens there? If we click on standby, then the process would be running, whatever the process or whatever the application that we are running before standby would be running. Why? Because supply voltage will only be given to the RAM. Okay, and if this particular bit, that is idle bit, is programmed to 1, then it makes the processor in idle state, and clock signal is available to all the peripherals but not to the CPU. It means only the clock signal will be gated off to the processor, but all the other peripherals would be receiving the clock signal. See, this is what the formulae which we use for calculating the baud rate. So here f baud is known to us. Why? Because if I want to establish the communication between the processor or controller and some other peripheral, then I know what is the baud rate supported by the peripheral. So we have to select that baud rate, and 2 power s mod for doubling the baud rate, as I told you, and 32 is a constant. I'll tell you what is this 32. F oscillator here is nothing but 11.0592 megahertz, and 12, I'll show what is this 12, and then 256 minus TH1, as I told you that we have to use only timer 1 in mode 2 for generating the baud rate. Okay, why? Because here we have only timer 1, and then as the maximum value here is 256, which is only in case of auto reload mode. So that is why we have to use this timer 1 in auto reload mode for generating the baud rate. See, this is how the internal hardware looks like, where the crystal frequency is given or through divide by 12 circuit, and this 921.6 kilohertz will be given to UART. Internally in UART we have a divide by 32 circuit, therefore it will divide the incoming frequency 921.6 kilohertz by 32, and the output frequency 28,800 hertz will be given as an input to, or as a clock input to, the timer 1. So that is why we can only set the baud rate with the help of timer 1 but not with timer 0. Okay, and these are the baud rates which are already calculated for 9600, 4800, 2400 and 1200 in hexadecimal format. Okay, by using the formulae which I have shown previously, that is this. So as we know, S mod should be 0, and here it is constant. F oscillator, we know that 12 is a constant, 256 is constant, and we know what is the baud rate that we are going with. Therefore we have to find out TH1. So after finding out TH1, we have to load that value into TH1. Thank you. And in the next session we'll discuss about interrupts.